And we're back after a hiatus this week in Coverager. It is September 11th. It is the 19th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Not a topic we're going to get into, but it is that particular week. So a little bit of solemn vigil later, probably. But we're back from hiatus. Shefi is on assignment, and filling in Shefi's shoes, we have a guest, Patrick West from Be Atomic, and of course, my partner in crime, Avi. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Avi.
Um, so this is the Patrick. You're new, but I think you know all about us. This is the podcast where we break down some of the news coverages for the week. What was hot on the Coverager website, or what was really noteworthy or newsworthy in insurtech, fintech, edtech, agtech, regtech, wherever we're going with this tech. What was noteworthy about it? And I forgot insurtech. And so I'm going to kick it over to Avi. Avi, for the week ending 9/11. What were the hot topics for the week?
So two big topics in terms of clicks. Chubb launching Chubb Studio, and Coterie looking to work with agents. And I think we'll start with Chubb. We've seen them very active, especially outside of the US in terms of partnership. Grab is a noteworthy partner. And they've launched this studio, basically making their products digitally available for partners to integrate with, all the way from buying the product to servicing the claims. So definitely, kind of like you want this in the future to be a standard, but I wonder if you guys think this is enough to be chosen as a partner, just because you have that offering out there. And that's always comes down to the ultimate question: is that enough?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm happy to jump in on this part of it. I mean, I think some of this is kind of along the lines of like the embedded insurance conversation, right? And I think, my personal view on a lot of this is really when you go this route and you start to say, look, we're just going to put insurance anywhere, meet the client where they are. I mean, ultimately, I look at it and think, okay, are you just blatantly admitting you have no ability to create relationships? To me, that's what this screams is we don't know what to do anymore. We think we need to get rid of agents, or we think we need to add on to what we're doing with agents. I think it's the, more that they want to get rid of them side of things, right? But to me, it just screams that, look, we're throwing our hands up. We're going to put this everywhere because we don't know how to create relationships. And, to think that this much money gets spent on things. And then I go and I talk to agents across the country, Main Street, keeping communities in check. And they're like, hey, they're screaming from the top of their lungs for a grand in marketing. I mean, let's go. Like, we have professional distribution models available. And this is cool. I mean, this is good on paper. This gets exciting. But at what point do we really need to say, are we investing in the right distribution channels? And I think this is reactionary to maybe outside of the industry forces, while the entire industry, the people that have been in it for years, they bet their whole life on it, are saying, where's my, come to me. Let's work together on our end, instead of enabling bike insurance to go on the Trek website, as an example. So that's where I go every time when I see stuff like this.
I almost think that there's a branding problem. Like as you're describing that, I'm thinking, could they have accomplished the same thing under a different branding name, and why mix the two? And let's assume, Pat. Let's assume that they don't have, like, they're struggling. Like, they just want to shotgun approach it. They want to go out. I guess I can kind of understand that. It's complicated times. They're still trying to understand, like, how are we going to get our product out there? But why would you use your brand name use it as the shotgun. Like if you're gonna go direct, create a new brand. If you're gonna use agents, use the brand that you've always used to go through agents. Why would you sully the brand? And now there's going to be, the whole point of branding is that you want to eliminate confusion. This kind of adds confusion a little bit. Now, I will tell you, I'm a big fan of Chubb over the years. Have not followed them really massively since the merger, but with Ace, right? Yeah, I have not really followed them since then. But before then, I mean, I thought they had an immaculate reputation. They just were known as the company that paid claims, and so yeah, it's a little confusing. Great brand name, and I think they might be sullying it.
It's an interesting debate, because when you think about it, like if you keep your eyes toward the future, and everybody's talking about the future ecosystem embedded, and not just we're talking about insurance, we're talking about financial products, other services, of consumers that are looking for. You can't ignore the fact that someone like, I don't know, maybe Grab in Southeast Asia comes in and says, look, we have 50 million users, they can use insurance. Like, well, let's meet them at the point of sale. And Chubb is like, of course, I mean, I can't say no to this opportunity.
Sure.
And again, this is the future, and we talked about this, and we talked about agents, and I think agents have a problem, and I think carriers think that agents have a problem, and they're saying, we're not saying this is a bad channel, but we have to be in other places, because at the end of the day, everybody talks about carriers for the agent. They want the agent to succeed, whatever. That's their business. They care about their business. They don't care if an agent sells it or someone like Grab sells it. So you have to be there, but you're right. In a way, you kind of like you're hurting yourself, because if you are saying, I can't create the relationship, I can't go direct to consumer, I don't have a brand to be able to win that customer, even if Grab offers something else, then you're in a bad situation, because tomorrow other insurers will come, they'll launch their own studio, it's going to be competitive again, and now Grab has to choose. Maybe they choose one, but maybe the customer is not happy that they just chose one for him. So you get into this point. So I don't think there's going to be a home run here. The fact that Chubb has a Chubb studio, it's not going to be a home run. It's still going to be very slow. But for them, it's another area where they could play in. And if they could prove the ROI and saying, look, because we've built this, we were able to attract more partners. And I can tell you, a lot of times I know of a mortgage player, a digital mortgage player, that partnered with a specific insurtech just because they were the only one that had an API offering. No one else offered that. And they got business from it. So there's that game of kind of like, let's be faster than anyone else. But you're right. It's a very challenging proposition, because where does it take you as a business?
Yeah. The two things I think about, one, when I worked for the largest auto insurer in the country, and, they would come out with a bank product as an example, it would stink as an agent, because you're like, gosh, this is just more pressure to push something out now. But they didn't care, because they knew there was 18,000 agents in the country. So day one, they probably sold 10,000 of that product just to those people. The second piece that I look at is when you go direct and you use agents, it reminds me, I had a buddy in college, and our freshman year, he literally chased a girl for the whole year. She had a boyfriend. He was respectful about it. I mean, maybe we don't need to go there with it, but he chased her. He liked her. He wanted to take her out. And like right at the end of our freshman year, she's like, fine. And they started dating for like the last couple months. But then literally the second she went home, she stopped calling. He didn't hear from her. We stayed in the summer and played baseball. He didn't hear from her. It was over. Like, she went home, her old boyfriend came to the party, and that was it. When I look at it and I say, okay, if you're going direct and you're going through agents, what's going to happen is I'm going to buy online at 2 a.m. because I'm frustrated. I need something done. And then I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go to the bar, I'm going to go wherever. and I'm going to run into the insurance agent that's in every city in America, and they're just going to come in and they're going to take that relationship. And so now, as Chubb paid for that relationship twice, once through their digital stream, just to have the agent turn around, essentially put them in the same spot as a consumer. But to me, there's a lot of complication that comes with the direct and the agent route that isn't just the, hey, you're kind of playing both sides of the fence. There's some other stuff that goes there. And I see that relationship poaching. Agents are going to clean up. I mean, they got to be patient. They got to let that digital stuff go. But that's where I see the ability to just clean up. You're going to see them at church. You're going to see them at Little League. And how does digital compete in that environment? That's a question, not a statement.
I think I've said that before, Avi. I think I've said like it's, part of the advantage of the agency system for 100+ years has always been that local community, the ability to form very long-lasting bonding relationships. Hey, I'm an insurance agent. I can sell everyone I went to high school with, people I went to college with, like people I'm now seeing at church or at the Lions Club or whatever. That's tough. It gets to that point that you made several times now, which is when in that sort of face-to-face relationship, it's hard to say no, right? It's hard to say no, and someone's just like, hey, just have a meeting with me. If you know that person, it's going to be hard to say no. If you become a client, as you said, it's going to be hard to say goodbye. It's going to be really hard to do. So I have no problem with carriers going direct. None. It's fine. I think it's going to be harder than they expect it to be. But who can go direct? Only the big players. It's just too expensive to acquire customers. So I think there's a very high line, like in terms of maybe level of surplus, and above that, I think you have the financial capability of going direct. Below that, I don't think you really have the capability of going direct. And the agency system has proven itself. And I wish, to Patrick's point, I wish there was that. I wish carriers spent more time trying to form long-lasting relationships with their agents and treat them like their own internal sales force versus, it feels like a conflicting relationship, and there's always this threat that, well, we're just going to go direct anyways and compete with you. I wish that relationship was a little bit better. But to go back to where I started, I don't mind if carriers go direct. That's their choice. They can do it. It's when they do both, and they do both under the same brand name. I don't understand that. It's too muddled. You're sullying the brand on that part. So I have a feeling we're kind of all in agreement on this.
You mentioned that only the big players can forge these digital partnerships because it costs money. They also have another advantage where they can come in to grab and say, look, we'll give you a higher commission. Our competitor can't. We'll give you a higher commission. Choose us. And you better believe that Grab is going to say, I need to make money. Like, I don't care about this other player. It's insurance. It's the same. Let's go with the highest bidder. But, we talk about agents. I could tell you, for example, when you look at the life insurance space, I don't see how you could work with new agents today, because new agents today are young. Their friends are young. They're not getting married yet. They're not having kids. So you can't work with them. And it's going to be difficult for insurance companies, life insurance companies, to keep on recruiting like they recruited in previous years. So you need to find a partnership that is able to target 35-year-olds. I just read Brooke Shields. When did she discover that she needs life insurance? When she was pregnant. That's the moment.
That's crazy.
So when she was pregnant. And I speak with so many others, and we've been doing some research around the age of when do actually Policy Genius, Bestow, Health IQ. What is the age group? And these are not millennials. Like, they're very they're barely millennials, because again, 35 to 45, a lot of people delay this purchase. So I don't think you can now go to a college student, a graduate, say, hey, you want to be financially independent, come sell life insurance. You can sell to your friends. I mean, unless you get them married and make them have kids.
Th- that Pat, I don't know what your experience is on the life side, but life insurance, being a life agent seems like a Herculean task. I don't understand it. P&C has relevancy. Like, you have to buy auto insurance. Like, there's a gun to your head, figuratively, to do that. I think of Brent Williams from Benakiva, who has sold a lot of life insurance, but he was a financial planner, right? And I think I think that's a nice marriage, because the life insurance becomes part of the financial planning process. The risk management, also, the deferment of taxes. There's a whole bunch of uses for life insurance. I think financial planners kind of nail that down. I just don't see, like, life agents, like, I don't see what value do they bring other than making the transaction.
I think that the only
Have you done
reason
life, Pat?
What's that?
Have you done life?
That's where I started. Yeah. So I started at Northwestern Mutual at 20 years old as a college junior. And I went full time like a year into it. So it was just different at that point, but I think it's reckless. I mean, I think there's two sides of it. I think it's reckless to bring somebody young into a captive or even just a life insurance only environment, unless it's, hey, you're a specialist inside of our PNC shop. And the second piece of it is like, hey, and this is a challenge that I make to every agent I talk to is, the idea of a life only agent. The only reason that exists is one, we need to support some old industry structure that a lot of people still depend on. But the other part is that PNC agents just leave it on the table. And so the InsurTech side of it, where, I don't pretend to be on either side of the debate, but I think InsurTech and Main Street, if you want to call it, agencies, independent agencies, that the life insurance opportunity that InsurTech sees could be swallowed up with a pretty just consistent couple of years, honestly, of PNC focused agencies just writing life insurance. The captives have their twice a year events that you win prizes and trips and all that stuff. If the IA channel started to have twice a year where they just pump through their book to find life insurance, I think the InsurTech side of it, unless it's something unique, I've seen some really cool products like, products that change as your life changes. They're AI driven. That's a product thing again, but that still could fit into the agency side. So I think it's an opportunity that exists because agencies are so tied into PNC, which it's understandable. It's the way the revenue model is created. But I always challenge people to sell more life insurance if they're in that agency environment already.
Sure. It's a natural fit. I mean, it's got the word insurance in it. So I think for the majority of people that do business with an agent on the PNC side, if like they get a Brooke Shields moment where all of a sudden they're pregnant and like, shoot, I need to buy some life insurance. Oh, who do I call? What about the guy that sold me my auto? Right? It's natural, like that would happen.
People still call me like, dude, are you still in life insurance? I'm like, you haven't talked to me since I was 24. I'm 37 now. Like, no, I don't. But yeah, here, call this person too. Cause I kind of, like I could still hook you up. It's so weird. I get calls from people constantly because I try to hit up everybody. I mean, I was talking to 22-year-old people about.
You have to.
It's a very long sales cycle. That's the thing. Like you could talk to someone and maybe years later they would give you a call because
Absolutely.
they need it now, and they remember you. That's the thing. They remember you. But it's very difficult for a human to do it because as humans, we lose patience and we get frustrated and we're like, this is not working. So, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, and yesterday Century 21 was in the news. They're going bankrupt. Some brands, clothing brands, shoe brands, they don't want to be in department stores. They don't want to have that 50% off sticker on their shoe. And even then, some that do believe and say, you know what, let's go into Nordstrom, let's go into Century 21, they still have the confidence that a consumer will remember their brand, will see a friend that wore that shoe or clothing. Yeah. With insurance, like no one's like, well, my friend has Chubb. It's very...
When you, Avi, when you were introducing the Chubb story, I was thinking of with like Chubb Studio and situations like this. Could this be a similar situation where the internet comes and retail is just like, what do we do with this thing? And they kind of created a wall. So think of it like, we're going direct, but we're also going to use the agency system. It seems very similar to how retail had the the walled stores, and then like, oh well, we need an online presence, and then the two were different, and they kept them different, and they didn't roll up their sleeves and do the necessary work to integrate those. And then along comes Apple, who was a digital player, and said, "Oh, we're going to open some retail stores," and everyone was just like, "Are you nuts? Like retail's dead." And Apple's like, "No, we're going to merge these two, and they're going to work nicely together." Now you see Walmart doing it, and I know Nordstrom is still kind of experimenting with this model, but they're doing those sort of things, and I almost see it as the same way. It's just like you can do it, but if you're just like trying to make a buck, the way like Patrick was sort of describing it, like you just want to like make money, you're admitting you can't form relationships, it's almost doomed right from the start. It's like you got to roll up your sleeves and like figure out how to integrate those two pieces, and I think it could work. But my opinion is that I think they should separate the brands, because I know they're not going to roll up their sleeves. They're not going to do that necessary work, so they can't get it the way Apple got retail and digital.
I'll give them a reason to do it. If you Google search Chubb Studio, and I'm not going to get any deeper than that, I think we both know what I'm going at here, right? Like if you Google search something like Chubb Studio, what's going to pop up below what they have? Dude, I mean, did anybody not think of those type of things too? And I'm not trying to be gross or anything like that, but at what point do you sit back as a product person and say, look, dude, these Google searches are going to come back and they're going to be gross?
No,
So,
I think
reason to do it.
yeah, listen, with Walmart, and there's beauty to offline, because when you get into a Walmart, and just like when you go eat at a restaurant, you may be tempted to order an appetizer or a dessert. And when you go into Walmart, you go into this aisle and say, you know what, I didn't see this barbecue sauce before. Let me take it. When you're online, you're very kind of goal-oriented. You don't have any distractions.
Yep.
With insurance, look, Nick, if they could fire on all cylinders and be here and be there, that's great for them. Like, I think if they'll have that head start, they will win business, because at the end of the day, a lot of consumers are indifferent. And they say, if Grab is saying that Chubb is good, if this watch a brand saying that Chubb is good, I'm going with it. I don't want to compare. Like I'm fine with the price. Let me do it. And that's a great way for Chubb to win business. At the end of the day, if the playing field is leveled, then you say, well, is there any brand element? And we know that there are no brands in insurance, in my opinion, at least. So then it's up to the partner to kind of push the specific insurer. And to me, like if I'm Chubb, I'm big and powerful Chubb, I'm like, wait a second. I mean, can I do something else to control my destiny? Because right now you're kind of offering your product and you hope people will implement them in their digital stores or wherever. I don't think that 20, 30 years from now, that is going to be a wise strategy, because at the end of the day, to replace a partner is simply a matter of, can I get a better commission? Can they be more flexible? And whoever owns that customer, whoever owns that interaction is going to be on the winning side for sure.
Alignment of interest. Avi, I think topic number 2 is similar to topic number 1. Why don't you go?
It's let me tell you, topic number 2, and we talked about Coterie in the past, and I'll tell you one thing that kind of bothers me right now, at least. So on their website, Coterie, they have the job ad. They're looking for a VP of agency distribution to, kind of be responsible for developing that channel. But if I go 1 second and I look at their, on the right, they have a text box right next to the ad, and it reads, Coterie is a well-funded insurtech startup that distributes commercial insurance via API and partnerships rather than insurance agents. So if you're looking for an agent, I mean, wouldn't you kind of at least remove that text box, change it? The ad is for the agent, and someone is reading that and they're saying, so they sell without agents, but they're looking for agents. Come on, that's like number one. Number two, and I'll ask you, Pat, because this is a question we hear from many insurtechs. What can an insurtech do to successfully recruit agents? Like, what is the sell? Like, what do you need to offer agents? And I'll tell you, Next Insurance is working with thousands of agents. Attune, which considers itself an insurtech, works with thousands of agents. Cover Wallet, they have a different take on how they work with agents. Everybody's now going after agents. So in a way, I feel like insurtechs will become kind of like, your traditional carrier, because I mean, what's the difference? Like when one insurtech comes to you and says, oh, and the agent's like, oh, I work with an insurtech. I have an insurtech in my mix. That's great. But now you have all of these coming after you. So what can Coterie do to successfully recruit agents?
Yeah, you talked about it in the last topic too, and I've told they know who they are. I've told them over and over. If you want to get in front of agents and you want agents to pay attention to you, and you want to be the 14th relationship of in the group, you have to provide something unique. And I think there's three ways that you can approach that. The most obvious, and to be perfectly upfront, if you have hundreds of millions in funding, pay agents more. There's nothing about that even is hard to. You have funding, and you're going to give me a lower commission, and you want me to sell your product over relationships I've had for a decade. To me, that's so obvious. They fight it because again, they started with, I don't want to work with agents. Now they're like, yeah, that was stupid. Now I need to. And they
what's the cheapest way we can do it?
Yeah. Like, again, it to me, I feel like it's a question of, are you trying to add agencies onto your story so you can say we have this much potential in the future, so that you can just get closer to that exit that a lot of founders probably, in my opinion, have right now. It's just, they don't see that you're not building a 30-year company in most of these environments. The second thing is you have to give them something unique. Agents pay for MVRs, agents pay for VoIP, agents pay for a lot of things that technology driven carriers can educate them on, and they don't do it. They think they want more articles about what to do when your car breaks down. I live in Illinois. If my car breaks down, the toll road guys pull up behind me 30 seconds later. I could care less, guys. Stop about it. What's unique? If you have 4 behavioral economists or you have 5 engineers, why not have them talk to me about something totally unique?
God, yes.
Why do I need to hear about all the same basic stuff? And they've been told these things, guys, and it because you've been telling them too. They don't care because they're telling a story towards an exit strategy. But again, that's number 2. The third thing, and actually why I think the numbers you're talking about, we should look deeper into them, is I think the one advantage an insurtech carrier has is with scratch agents. Scratch agents in the United States get treated like the poop emoji, right?
Can you define scratch agent?
Scratch agent, somebody that is literally, they didn't buy their book. They're starting at 0 policies day one. They have zero carrier agreements. It's a true 0 start, right? Not, you didn't buy a book or anything like that. So you might have experience. It's not an experience thing, which makes it even worse. You have you have a stud in Alabama. You guys know who I'm talking about. He gets invited to conferences that talk about how to run agencies by carriers that won't appoint him. Come on. So InsurTech has a huge advantage in their ability to identify scratch agencies, first-year, second-year agents that just want to have some options for the relationships they have. And I'll tell you right now, if you think you're a big carrier and people are going to sell InsurTech for a couple of years, and then when they're big enough for your standards, they're going to come to you, you're crazy. You're going to miss the boat. And I warn incumbents every day about that. If you ignore those scratch agents, no matter what you are, if you're a vendor, if you're a carrier, any of those people that ignore relationships with scratch agencies are going to pay for it. And it's not even going to be that long. It's going to be 5 years from now. They're going to be paying for that. So those are the 3 things I would talk about.
Good, Avi.
That's a good point. And, there is actually a company that specifically what you just said of ignoring, kind of like the tier 2 agents, those that don't bring a lot in premiums every year. They went after them, and they grew to over 100 million in premiums in a few years. And that was their strategy. But now everybody is going after agents, everyone. And I feel like, yeah, in the commercial space. So like your point, give them something valuable, give them, technology, talk to them, maybe help them with marketing, be
Maybe,
more
maybe
than,
Avi,
yeah.
maybe they're incapable. But honestly, like I don't know why. It's just sort of like dawned on me. Um, they don't know how to sell either, or else they
Oh,
would have
well,
gone
that's,
direct. So they
so
don't know how to
listen,
market either.
you,
Yeah. Oh my
you,
God.
So maybe it's like
he,
a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's just like, they've done it in the past, they've given marketing dollars and nothing worked, and it's just like, but they can't provide any guidance because they don't know how to do it.
so here's the thing, and people need to understand this. And to me, it was a surprise because the founder of Coterie came from ClearCover, and the whole API approach. It's not new. Uh, they know that it didn't work there, and ClearCover is after agents. Everybody knows that. And like I want to ask, like, why did you think you could make it work? Because there is no scale in this model. You can't say, let me wake up one day and I'm going to go to all the digital partners out there and I'm going to have them implement my piece of code, and then their users are magically going to buy insurance. You have to understand also, like, the fact that you are integrated with a kind of like a small business software or something, that doesn't mean that the user is going to see the insurance and buy it. They may not need it. They may already have insurance. Now, you have to also look at the line of business. Commercial insurance, unlike personal lines, auto or home, people don't compare commercial insurance often. You buy it, you kind of stick with it, because to begin with, your options are not very, they're not endless. You don't have Geico and Nationwide and Allstate and State Farm and Travelers. You have like very limited companies, and maybe CNA is going to be $2,000 more than what the Hartford is, and what are you comparing? So there's that element, but again, it's a surprise. So you're right. You can't, first, you cannot sell online. I always say that to people. You cannot sell. You can offer. You can offer a product, and maybe if the user comes in, they'll decide to buy. That's all you can do. But to me, now to go after the agent, and Pat, you talked about an exit strategy, and I was speaking to someone from an insurtech startup, and that person told me, if you want an exit, you need to kind of have a strategy of what sets you apart, and when someone buys you, what are they getting? So if someone is buying Coterie, what are they getting? It's exactly the same thing as anyone else now. It's, you started with the API, which was unique. Sure, you were committed to that. Of course, that doesn't work. Now you're after agents. So is that the future? Is that modern insurance? I don't think so. So I think even for an exit strategy, it's going to be very difficult for them to convince someone to say, we're better, you should buy us.
I think what you see different kinds of founders. You see founders with backgrounds. Obviously, I'm not speaking specifically to Coterie when I say this, but I think what we're seeing with a lot of insurtech is that they end up coming from investment firms that are funds that are used to being in insurance, or they come from investment funds literally created by insurance, right? And the idea is that I think in a lot of ways they're an R&D kind of a offshore, if you want to call it that, a third-party R&D environment. That I think there's some good technology there. I think there's some really interesting innovation happening at the product level. So my expectation is that a lot of these people that have relationships and came from kind of around the industry or in the industry, I think they're going to be able to take those back to the carriers. But the idea that, insurtech is going to like somehow become the new norm is crazy. I mean, the economy or the uncertainty in the world right now, people aren't trying to just risk it all. And I think any kind of offer from a carrier, if they want it, if they need it, is probably about the only realistic thing. Like, hey, I have friends that know what I built. They know how they can use it. And, maybe it's not the sweetest deal ever, but it gets us out of this environment. that we're in now. It wouldn't surprise me to see that. But you know, again, where one of the hashtags you guys forgot at the beginning was the indie tech part of it. And with my new role at Neon and it would be Atomic and developing Neon as a product manager, I can tell you guys, you know, and Seth will tell you this point blank, we need to know where the groups that we introduce to our network, we need to know where they come from as far as, you know, experience in the industry. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have 30 years of agency experience, but did you start off saying agents are on their way out and we're that first wave that takes them out? Or, you know, are you saying, hey, look, I understand how distribution works. I'm freaking awesome at building software. I'm awesome at branding and messaging, but hey, can you guys create relationships with me? I mean, we always are looking at that and, you know, I mean, we do what's best for our business, period. But at the end of the day, the indie tech environment is absolutely a rebuttal to InsurTech that thought they had the solutions, that Facebook ads, you know, somehow totally negated a century-long sales process. Like, oh, they'll see different Google ads and different Facebook ads and they'll buy eventually. No,
Yeah.
the agent they've known for 20 years is going to make sure that he takes care of them and he's patient. And I just don't think that traditional sales cycle was disrupted at any level. And certainly social media is a great medium for connecting with clients. I don't think it's a great nudge to get people to buy at any kind of consistent clip.
Yeah, for the same leverage, the same value that social media gives direct companies gives the same amplification to agents. They can forge the same, and they have an advantage because they're an actual human being. They can actually forge stronger relationships. So I start to, I mean, you guys are bringing up great points. I can't help, this isn't, you know, I know Coterie is more of an MGU, so I'm really thinking of the carrier space, and I'm thinking in an insurance world where the product is highly commoditized, who has the advantage? And to me, the advantage comes with the big players that can spend a ton of money. We see it, Geico's, you know, they can just spend billions of dollars on advertisement, just constantly be in your face to get your attention. And I think you're going to see, and it's the agency system where there's a professional level of sales and marketing within those agencies. Huge advantage in a commodified world. So from a carrier's perspective, I think they can do one of two things. They can, if they can't go direct, then they have no choice. They can't just go to the agency system and just try to shotgun it. They're really, because most likely they have a commodified product, most likely. Therefore, it is in their best interest to really lock in with select agents that they can form long-term relationships with and basically be a conduit between the two to make sure that that agency system that they've partnered with has that professional level sales and marketing so that they can sell their commodity product. Or part two, decommodify your product. Distinguish it. Make it something special that is in a very small market, and then people have to come to you to buy it. And I don't see carriers doing that. I think they would much rather spend as much money on the marketing stuff. But if you're, you know, a mutual or a farm bureau or a regional, you're not going to have that budget. So you have two choices, I think. Since you can't really go direct, you either have to form a strong relationship with your agency system, better relationship with your agency system, and really take your product and decommoditize it.
You know, in the commercial space, you know, it's not as easy to go buy car insurance online like you could do with Geico and Nationwide and Progressive. So most of the policies still go through agents. So obviously for Coterie and Next and the Cover Wallet and you know, anyone else, Pi Insurance.
Well, Avi, there's a reason why. It's much more
yeah.
It's much more complex.
Oh, of course, very, very complicated. I mean, for us,
like you said, it can't be sold. Like
No, no,
you can't go
yeah,
online and buy, like, you
no,
if you had one car, yeah, I think you could buy
no,
commercial
yeah,
auto.
yeah, yeah.
You have more than one car, you have three, you have a fleet. Absolutely no way. You need a commercial agent that understands fleets, understands commercial auto, and can basically say, no, you don't want to do that. I mean, there are codes in commercial auto where if you get those codes wrong, you will not have coverage.
Yeah.
You can't expect a layperson to go in and start understanding. Oh, do I need non-owned and hired auto? It's impossible. So it gets to your point, like that can't be sold, and that's why they have to go through agents.
And it's
Yeah,
doable. Everybody
yeah,
says,
yeah.
like, hey, what do we do? Right? We know, but what do we do? And it's doable. I wrote an article about it last year, and it was, the idea was whether or not hardware stores were a cautionary tale for the Main Street local insurance agent. And the answer is absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at models like Ace Hardware, or you look at the hardware stores that did survive, the family-owned ones, right? They had a local presence and a local understanding. They had a niche product. You live in a different environment than I do. Obviously, same way, our hardware store needs are different. Those local stores did it. So there is a way to do it. It's very difficult, but it's absolutely necessary because the consumer is going to lose on the other end of things in the environment Nick's coming across or talking about if agents aren't there, back to my earlier comment, to steal that relationship back, clean it up and say, hey, look, like I know it felt good to be out, but like I'm the one that's going to treat you the right way. And it's not BS. I can list it. I'm a professional. I know how to do this.
It's really like, I think one of the problems when you're a founder, and especially you come with, from a tech background, and you look at all these other startups that, have seen wide adoption, like, even Warby Parker, I'll say, although they're not a tech company, they say they are a tech company, but Chime and Acorns and millions of users and Robinhood, there are no home runs in insurance. That is the biggest problem you have to deal with first. The second is, like, look at your line of business, look at the consumer. And you know what? I can tell you, like, if you target with a product that's very low end, very cheap, you're going to attract a very specific audience that when the rate goes up, they're going to go shopping elsewhere. That's what it is. I mean, there are no secrets. I mean, that's what you offered. That's what they bought. I think you asked the question, like, who has the advantage? When we were at a webinar with Seth, I said, because to me, like, agents, my opinion is that agents need to be different. I don't believe, and I say this all the time, I don't believe insurance companies or agents have the right to be consumer-facing brands. You don't offer a product, especially like if you're in the specialty lines, something very specific like commercial, you could say yes, but in others, I would say no. But I like the fact that you can work with agents, and I'll tell you why. Because if I, let's say, was a carrier and you would tell me, okay, you have to choose. Are you going full in on Coterie or are you going full in on 5,000 agents? And it's the same amount of money. I would go with 5,000 agents, and I'll tell you why. It's much easier to break the spirit of one company than it is to break the spirit of 5,000 agents. Because that agent may be lazy or he may lose confidence. But that one, oh boy, that one is very creative and he's able to get clients. I can't even believe that he was able to get these clients. And that's where insurance was always that way. You want to take the fight to the street and you want to have different tactics and you let people lose. I still believe that, if you look in time and, 20, 30 years, and we're already seeing this, like people that grow up in a digital environment, they don't know what an insurance agent is. They go on Google and they search for car insurance or car insurance companies. Very few search for an agent. Why? I mean, different reasons. So either carriers help agents be more popular, just like they did with the Got Milk and get people to drink more milk. Either you do that. And if you don't do that, then you have to make sure that your brand is more popular. And I always say, like, and this goes back to Chubb Studio, you could offer your product so others will choose it, or you could be that platform and integrate your product with it. And you know what? It's fine even if you don't sell, because you're not going to sell 100% of the times. But I want to see an insurance carrier, a commercial insurance carrier, I want to see them offering something else that's relevant for businesses. It doesn't have to be insurance. It could be, legal, it could be recruiting, it could be so many other things. And you have to like understand, maybe for you going forward, insurance is not going to be the main business. Because if it is the main business, then you're going to lose, most will lose, because it is a commodity and it is driven by consumers, it is driven by price, and it's very difficult to get it across.
Yeah, I would just say I'm going to throw this in here, but we call them neons at Be Atomic, and there's agents that are out there that are thinking the way that we do, that are thinking like InsurTech, that own relationships. And so that's my, again, I'll take that little, is that my book pitch moment kind of thing? But
No. Yeah.
And that was my big surprise when I switched into my current role. If you think insurance is dusty, you think insurance is, doesn't care, keep thinking that way, please. I don't need any more people. I don't need anybody else to follow what we're doing, because Main Street is a lot more innovative. And not just in insurance. I mean, people are leaving Silicon Valley. They're moving to Midwest. They're moving to places that you wouldn't think innovation necessarily is going to be a hub at. Des Moines, Columbus, places like that are starting to be InsurTech hubs. But the reality of it is just, hey, man, this is we're underscoring innovation at Main Street level, whether it's insurance or whether it's any other, I think, high tech area. It's coming into a different reality with the stay at home and the less travel and, remote workers and dispersed workforces.
I think sports provides a good metaphor, analogy, or comparable here. It feels like we're in the era, Pat, of the first few innings of Moneyball for baseball. Really old industry did scouting in a particular way for generations, and here's this new way of thinking, and it was like completely rejected for a while. Now everybody's doing it, and they're doing it in other sports. And I just can't help but think, as you were sort of describing, both of you were sort of describing some of your points, that I think sales is hard. Selling insurance is really difficult. And to me, it's like a baseball prospect. Most of them are going to fail. So most of the salespeople are not going to make it. But there are very few, like Mike Trouts. Like, there are very few players that sort of stand out at the beginning level and sort of keep standing out like the whole way through. More often than not, what ends up happening is you find like the diamonds in the rough. There's so many of them. They end up like, they weren't highly recruited, they weren't drafted high, but they worked hard, and you had to invest resources into them to mature that. And I think that, to me, is the big thing that's missing with the carrier agency relationship. And I think carriers don't know how to do it, but they should start thinking themselves as like Major League Baseball teams and providing investment to their distribution channel, because it's that investment that's going to plant seeds and allow those diamonds to kind of or the fruits, probably bad, the fruits to kind of emerge from that, because you don't know which ones. What are the odds that you're going to shotgun, 50 college students that graduate for some sort of sales position? You don't know which one is gonna nail it, right? It takes time, it takes investment. Sometimes the ones that the ones that star early are the ones that peter out later on. That to me is, I think, the big dynamic is in that particular relationship. And if the risk-bearing entity, carrier, MGA, reinsurer, or whatever, is not going to make the investment, then they're just going to always have problems selling their product. And do you want to sell more product or not?
Invest in the people that get on base. If you're going to bring up Moneyball, Pete, why do we like him? Because he gets on base. Guys, I'm going to keep pointing to Pete. That's me right now. I'm going to keep pointing to Pete. Insurance agents, get on base. Why this continues to be a debate or a fight that we have with InsurTech is ego driven, or they just literally don't have any other part of their story that's compelling. If I'm going to take the 6% or 8% I need for agents out of the equation, the rest of your story kind of sucks. And I'm sorry to say that. Go home, try again, or invest in agents and do it the right way. Pay them more. Give them resources that aren't bullshit blog posts, and treat them like the special human
Have a
beings.
strategy.
Have a strategy.
Just have a strategy. It doesn't mean you have to treat all agents the same. It just means, like, who do you want representing your product in the marketplace? If you're going to shotgun it and just say, well, whoever can sell, you're going to have to bear the consequences of that, unfortunately.
American sees how that works, really.
Yeah.
American knows
So-
how that goes.
Pat, is Be Atomic, Neon, the platform, are you guys going to work with InsurTechs? Is that going to be part of the solution, or?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, anything that positions agents to find margin, to create better data, and again, people that want to keep money inside of the insurance ecosystem. I mean, that's what we're about at this point, because so much of that money gets sold as data out the back door and is used for other private equity purchases. If agents are the ones that are getting compensated for that data, for those sales, and that money stays inside of the ecosystem, that's where you're going to see some really kick-ass InsurTech, because it's going to be agent-backed. It's going to be agent-built. Neon is, in my opinion, one of the first platforms that's utilizing that model. But I actually think there's a lot of direct stuff that comes up, but the reality is agent-built, middle America built. There's some Rust Belt stuff that's coming out that's going to be cool. And so I think InsurTech, what it's been for the last 3 or 4 years, was fun. But it was probably just that. It probably wasn't a whole lot that is going to just totally change the game. It still comes back to agents creating relationships. So yeah, we want to work with InsurTech, absolutely. But like I said, if you came in it at the idea that agents didn't need to be a part of it, I handle that part of the business. I need to have a deeper discussion with you, and it can't just be, hey, I was wrong. It needs to be deeper than that. And hey, that's part of the game. And I think our agents in the indie tech environment respects us for doing it that way.
I think, to your point, Pat, and why are we even here? Like, really, what is this all about? And I feel like it must be driven by a lot of young people that came into the insurance workforce. And obviously everybody's talking about insurance as a big, talent problem, and a lot of people are retiring and all that. But a lot of young people came in that want to do things differently. And you know what? They don't have the patience to recruit 500 people. So maybe 20 will make it. That stinks to me, like, to have that process. I mean, who wants to do that? It's not automated.
It's
it takes time. That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like a grind, and I feel like that's why a lot of part of it is why companies came in with to say, like, let's replace agents. And again, in some areas,
I think they're comparing it to other industries, though.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of folks are coming in and just saying, "Excuse me, the cost of acquisition is 15%. It's in other industries, it's 1%. We should be driving it down to that. What are these people doing?"
Yeah. Now, don't forget this. That really the battle, and I mean I've been saying that all the time. The battle is not insurance agents versus InsurTech. The battle is other companies and insurance. They don't care if you're an agent. They don't care if you're an InsurTech, and it's a really like a challenge. And again, different lines of business mean different things, and you need that person in the mix, of course. But I think right now, if I had to make a personal bet, I'll bet on agents, especially in the commercial space. But moving forward, like if I'm an insurance carrier, I'm preparing my strategy to a world where agents are not all the time in the mix, because you will simplify. Even in commercial, you will be able to simplify some coverages and give consumers that peace of mind. We looked at your data. We have your payroll data. We know exactly what you're doing. We compared it to others in your space. This is the policy, and we stand behind it. This is what you need to get. So there's that element. But I think, you mentioned, InsurTech so far aside from the companies that stand out, and we see more companies stand out in the personal space because easier to get the message across and see results in the personal space. Commercial is a different animal, and you're battling not just, again, like, let's find good B2B partners to put our products there. It's also a lot of times lack of awareness. A business owner sometimes doesn't even know what coverage they need, or if they need coverage, or if they are covered or not covered. So a very challenging space.
We talk about a baked idea, and if an idea is truly baked, and I think that's where the insurance agencies just continue to stand out. That it's not. And I got some, I talked about fintech and how, I sell lemonade through my, credit scoring app. So I have a insurtech element. You're like, it's a monoline referral that you make. I mean, insurance agencies, excuse me. I mean, they're baked. They've got they've got the systems, they've got the infrastructure. I just don't see the point in spending 10, 20, $30 million trying to create an alternate distribution model that puts you next to, custom sneakers, that puts you next to jerseys, that put you next to cologne, like the sexiest stuff in the world. And now you're going to go on that platform, you're going to tell me you're going to compete. No, like you have to, I always say it, like you have to zig when everybody else is zagging in insurance. I don't know if that could be any more true. I think our industry, man, if you do what everybody else is doing, it is so expensive that I don't get it.
But you know what? It's expensive for the insurtechs. Like for an insurtech, for Bestow to pay their commission for acquisition, that doesn't make sense. For a life insurance company like Northwestern Mutual, not a big deal. I'll pay it. I have no problem. That's what I pay the agent anyway. But I'll tell you what's a positive. And from the company, from ClearCover, that the founder of Coterie came with the API approach, there is another former employee that came with a very different approach, that he doesn't believe in APIs, and he doesn't believe that you can scale that model, and it's a completely different model. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Like, we're in business. We talk about technology and all that. The person driving the strategy is someone with different thoughts and different opinions on how they can do things. So we'll always see the different solutions out there. And I think time will tell what's going to happen. But to your point, Nick, like, sit down and have a strategy. We understand you're not here to build a carrier for 100 years, but if your strategy is an exit, think very hard what you need to do to differentiate yourself for a few years at least.
Agree?
Do more.
Yeah.
There's no way that I hate to say it, but like, online popularity does not transfer down to agency level decisions. Yeah, they like your brand. Yeah, they might like your edge. Maybe agree with your message, but you have to be so much more on top of it. You have to outwork your competition to get inside of that agency network, in my opinion. And I think that's fair. I do think these agents make a lot of money. They run very successful businesses. And, from my perspective, bring some humility to it when you talk to these people that, you understand one part of the technology ecosystem. This person spent the last 13 years building a $25 million book of insurance business, highly competitive, very expensive. This person's a major league business manager in a lot of circumstances. They might be some of the smartest business people in their community sometimes. If you're trying to partner with them, I think you need to approach it with some humility and understand that before you say, these are guys that are just, whatever. They golf and they go to their office for 2 hours. No, they don't. Keep thinking that. If you compete with me, keep thinking that, but it's so far off of reality.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to keep having this conversation, because I just think it boils, probably the biggest misunderstood aspect of insurance is distribution. And so for those listening, we're not favoring agents over direct or anything like that. It's just, this is a complicated, it's a very complicated product. It's just, like Patrick just said, you can't make it sexy. It just can't. Like, it's just not possible. So that's why we focus so much on the distribution angle of it, because it's such a competitive advantage. And I think it's an afterthought let's build the product and then we'll figure out how to sell it. And I think companies get into all sorts of problems when they do that. So awesome conversation, guys. Patrick West from Be Atomic and Neon, thank you for guest hosting, guest appearing, however you say
I was
it.
doing my best Shefi impression. That's what I'm going to go with. By the way, Shefi, love you. You're my idol. Happy to fill in for you.
Your best Shefi impression would have been to yell at Avi.
That's
I spent a day with Avi in New York, and the two of them on the phone is there's something special about that.
Absolutely.
I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. And Avi, as usual, thank you. This was again spirited discussion. I hope the listeners got something out of it. We're going to have more of these, I think going forward, just because distribution is just so important. So any sort of nugget we can provide on, insight that might help people kind of square this stuff away, I think it's very helpful. So Patrick West, Avi, everyone that's listening, happy Friday, happy weekend. This is This Week in Coverager for the week ending 9/11, very solemn day. So I hope everyone remembers, that particular moment in time and have your own, personal reflections on what that means for all of us. So for Avi, for Patrick, everyone, happy weekend.
Happy weekend.